Hello everyone. A very warm welcome to this session of ours. This is the third session in the row. Yesterday we have covered the introduction to UPSC selection procedure, and we had one content class also that was in modern history, and it dealt with Rajaram Mohan Rai. Slowly and gradually we are trying to make you aware of this field, and slowly and gradually we are taking you to the mode of preparation. That is why we have kept only 45 minutes to 60 minutes session in these particular series, and we are making you acclimatize to this examination preparation. So today we are going to deal with the answer writing technique, and it has many ingredients, many nuances to be told. And yesterday you might have seen like what is the examination scheme and what are the papers and what all are the syllabus and how you have to go with it. So the general thing you have seen, and you have seen about prelims. It is objective, and mains it is descriptive paper. Descriptive, you will get 7 counting papers plus 2 language papers. So 7 counting papers, these are very crucial. As it was told yesterday, the prelims round is an elimination round. This is an elimination round, and mains is more kind of a selection round. So in this selection round, the selection is not happening objectively. That is, like just like your prelims paper, what will come in the prelims paper? There will be 4 options, and you are ticking one, and 100 questions. At the end of the day, you are seeing how many questions are wrong and how many questions are correct. And depending upon that, you are counting your score out of 200. Out of 200, how much you are getting, you are counting that, and you are placing yourself with the crowd or with the competitors. Like if you are getting somewhere more than 110, you will feel better, like you will be clearing the prelims. For example, if you take your score is around 95, so it will be hanging. You might clear. If 1 or 2 questions are in your favor, you might clear. If 1 or 2 questions are against you, then you might not clear. If you are around 120, like you are for sure writing the mains examination. So this is the calculation at the end of the prelims paper, and it is 1 day 2 papers and end of it. But when it comes to mains, there are 7 papers, and in those 7 papers, essay is 1, GS papers are 4, then your optional papers are 2, and this is 5-day process. 5-day process, and plus 2, you have your languages. To totally 9 papers and 5 days affair. In 5 days, you don't know like how you are performing. And in the morning you are going at 9:30 and you are answering one paper. Again in the afternoon at 2:30 you are writing one more paper, and again you are busy in the preparation of the next day's paper. So you don't know like how you have written, and there is no time to assess yourself. So that is a very cumbersome process to get the paper assessed in the evening and again prepare for the next paper. So while you write all these 9 papers, you don't know like where exactly you are standing. And after this, before the interview call comes, you will be having around 2.5 to 3 months time. And in this time, you will just try to see like what all you have answered, how many questions you have answered. So all these things will be concentrated in that particular time. But compared to prelims, it is very different paper, and prelims, it is completely knowledge oriented paper, and it is asking to recognize the right answer. So right answer you ticked, that is the end of the business. But here there are many things involved. Your knowledge is primary. So that is what we will see in the next slide, like how it is different from prelims. First thing, knowledge is primary. Either it is for prelims or for mains, the knowledge is primary, and it is the very underlying factor. that is knowledge. Knowledge is the underlying factor, and this is the base of everything, and upon it we are going to build our answer. So knowledge is primary, but when it comes to the prelims, so knowledge matters a lot, but when it comes to mains, more matters is the presentation. Presentation, so basically when we say presentation, so it involves many things, and we can't sum it up within 1 hour. We have to go on, we have to write answers, we have to get them checked, we have to get the marks, and we have to see where we are standing, and it is a continuous process. You have to write answers at least for 9 to 12 months so that you are standing in the competition. And I am not scaring you at the very outset that you have to start the answer writing from today itself, all 20 questions. I am not telling like that, but at least the small steps have to be taken from today. That is, you have to start writing the answers from today. So that is my humble request. Then how it is different from prelims in other aspects? It is a subjective evaluation. Basically, your prelims paper, so you will be ticking the answers in OMR sheet. This OMR sheet is corrected by a machine. The machine is fed with the right answers, and it will give you the score at the end of the day, maybe 100, maybe 105, like that it will give, and that is the end of it. But when it comes to the mains paper, there are many people associated with the correction process, and I'll tell you, a UPSC may give, I am not telling it pakka, so UPSC may give a blueprint for answer, but you cannot make the photocopy of this blueprint and put it in your answer. And all the answers they are checking, they are unique in themselves, and you cannot produce this as it is. So it is up to the evaluator, like how he is marking. So subjective evaluation it is. And again, though it is subjective, is it corrected by a single person across all the papers, across all the people? No. Different people are correcting different papers, and your paper is going to whom you don't know. So basically, here let's say your essay paper is corrected by person A, and your GS paper 2 is corrected by person Z. Meanwhile, for your friend, your essay paper is corrected by person B, and your GS paper 2 is corrected by person Y. You don't know. So it is completely a subjective evaluation. For that matter, your answer has to be very good, very presentable on any day with any person. You have to get good marks. That means there are some standard procedures, and there are some proper ways to present your answer. That is what we are going to deal throughout this year. Then the very next thing is the relative evaluation. Relative evaluation, it is not subjective. Subjective, it is with respect to the evaluator. So it is up to the evaluator. And when it comes to the relative evaluation, it is the relation between the present paper, which I am checking right now, and the paper which I have checked before. So basically, if the paper which I had checked before is very good, and if your answers are looking very average, then you are going to get below average marks. Let's say a person who has written before you, or the paper which has been checked before, if it is an average answer, and if you are written good answers compared to that answer, then definitely you are going to get very good marks in that. So it is again completely a relative thing. So it is subjective, it is relative, it is not objective at all. Then coming to other aspect, how it is different from prelims, the aggregation of marks. For example, in these 7 papers, let's say the first 2 papers have gone very average. And other 5 papers you have performed very good. Then you may have chance to clear through the mains. Let's say you have done average in 5 and good in 2 papers. There are less chances that you will get through. So in this process, finally it is the aggregation of the marks. And at the end of the mains, the game is not over. Let's say you will get the interview call. And when you get the interview call, you are not sure like how many marks you have got. For example, out of 1750, generally we have seen if you score around 825 marks, 825 or 850 marks, you are through. But you don't know the exact cutoff. Maybe you are just 1 mark above the cutoff, or you might be 100 marks above the cutoff. Nobody knows it. But during the interview preparation, again you have to go full throttle and you have to give 100%, and you should try to maximize your score in the interview process also, because you don't know the marks. That is why we should not leave any stone unturned during our mains preparation or the answer writing process. Then coming to the very basic aspect of this one, the aspect of how the answers, the UPSC answers are different from university answers. So let me tell you, all of us are graduates, or some of you are in the final year or the pre-final year. So basically, when do we write the university answers? University answers like once in semester. So semester wise we write, semester wise. And do we practice any answer before the semester examination? So if you say yes, I really doubt it. So semester, that is once in 6 months we are writing the examination. For how many papers? 6 papers. 6 papers of 3 hours each. 3 hours each, like we are writing 6 papers. And after that, are we worried? No, we are just waiting for our results. Whether it is 40%, whether it is 50%, 60% or 80%, we will just take it, because we are not so worried about it, because we had not done any kind of answer writing before. And on the same day, on the examination day, we are going with all the weapons and we are trying to apply there. But will it get us the fruits? Will you get the expected marks in the university paper? No. So there will be a huge disparity when you get the final marks of yours. You must be expecting 80, you may end up in getting 40. So that is the whole difference, because we are not answering. And the very important underlying factor when we write the answers in university papers or in your degree exams, basically we bluff a lot. Because we have not read, the examination will be for 100 marks and we will cover the syllabus of 80 marks maximum, and we will go with the attitude that even if we get 60 marks, that's enough. Even if we pass at the end of the day, that is enough. So what do we do? Just to fill the paper and just to utilize 3 hours, we start write anything and everything that is not asked, or whatever we know that we start writing. But in UPSC examination, that is not allowed at all, because in your first page you are going to give your impression whether you know the answer or not. For example, the first answer, if you bluff and if you are caught for the whole paper, like your impression is gone, and the evaluator will feel very much easy to correct your paper because he has caught you bluffing. And in the second answer also, though you have written a good answer, though you have written a correct answer, but you will not be very much interested because he has finally analyzed your personality. And all these 3 stages of the examination, it is all about your personality. Underlying factor, knowledge, all that thing is there, but the personality matters at the end of the day. So here, strictly no bluffing in this examination. Then, beating around the bush. For example, if you are asked for, let's say 10 marks about a particular thing, and you know only one fact you know, that is proper, it is with respect to that answer. And what you will do, you will drag this fact. I'll give one informal example. The question will be, how Ashoka defeated Kalinga, or how did he get the enlightenment? So what people write? Ashoka killed Kalinga. Kalinga was killed by Ashoka. And in that war, Ashoka killed Kalinga and Kalinga was killed by Ashoka. So throughout the paper, for one page, you will be dragging the same thing. So again, here the evaluator will not be very much interested in your paper, because though one fact is correct, but you are not answering to the expectation. So you are just beating around the bush and wasting the time. And here in the UPSC examination, you will be having 20 questions in GS papers. 20 questions, that means you have to be on your toes to answer. I know you will not be knowing all the 20 questions. Even if you know 15 questions properly, you can spend your time well in these 15 questions, and in other 5 questions, whatever you know, maybe 1 fact or 2 fact, you can write honestly and modestly, and you should go to the next question. At least in these 15 questions, you will score very good. So that is the expectation. At the end of the day, nobody will write all the 20 questions with the same quality. So there will be a disparity in the quality, but there your honesty is checked, whether you are writing what you know, or you are just beating around the bush. Next important factor is no show off. For example, few people will be having lot of knowledge with respect to that question, and we have to answer whatever that is asked rather than showing off what all we know. Because for example, 10 marker, there will be 150 words limit, and if you go on writing for 300 words, the evaluator will get bored. And let's say there will be a question on polity, GS2 paper, polity, and you are a political science student. There you will try to exhibit your knowledge, like what all you know under political science, you will go on writing it. So there, the specialized knowledge, whatever that you have gathered in your political science, you will just try to write it, but that will not fetch the marks, because you have to be generalist in the general papers. You have to write more points, but you should never reveal that you are from a particular background. For example, science and technology questions. Let's say one person is from space engineering, like he knows more about space, and if the question is on some satellite or some satellite launch vehicle, he should not drag it for too many points. So basically he has to write very crisply and end it. So there is no show off allowed in this particular answer writing. Then no irrelevance. So what will happen? While in the starting of the answer, we will be writing the relevant things, but we will lose control on ourselves and we go on writing the irrelevant things. So that is why we have to be very careful. After each paragraph or after writing few lines, we have to read the question again. What has been asked, though you know very well in that particular question, but you cannot write irrelevant answers. For example, let's say there is a question on women, and you have to write all the aspects of women. You should not deviate to the family, you should not deviate to the child care, and you should not write more points there in the child care or the family issues. So you have to just concentrate on the women. The topic is women. So no irrelevance is allowed. So these are the basic things that we have to see. And in GS paper, there are no choice in the questions. 20 questions you have to answer. There is no choice among the given number of questions, or there is no internal choice also. So in some of the degree exams, you must have seen the internal choice and the general choice, but here there is no choice. But in optional papers, you will be having some choice. Okay. Going to the next slide, what does it demand? So basically this process, what does it demand? That is answer writing. First thing, very crisp answers. Crisp. You must be knowing the meaning of crisp. It is not elongating one. It is not like a rubber. Crisp. It has to convey its message in few words. So that is what we practice over the years or over the months. Crisp answers. So with minimal usage of the words, we have to go with the answer. Crispness has to be maintained. When we maintain the crispness, the length of our sentence will get reduced, and in short time we can write more points. So that is what is expected in this examination. Then to the point. Yes, irrelevance has to be reduced. No beating around the bush, no bluffing. To the point. Like whatever that has been asked, we have to answer only that much. To the point. Maybe in that particular point you write more points, but don't go for irrelevance. Even if you know 4 points where you have to remember 10 points, write those 4 points and show your honesty in the paper and go to the next question. Then more points, and more points are required. For example, in examination we will get 10 marker or 15 marker questions, 10 or 15 marker. In 10 marker questions we expect nearly 8 to 10 different points, 8 to 10 different points, maybe in bullet, maybe in paragraph. So in paragraph what will happen, we tend to drag the issue. So rather than that, try to have objectivity in writing the paper. So better you write in points, and that point if you want to explain, you can explain in 2 or 3 lines, but don't drag it. So more points will fetch the more marks, and in 15 marker around 12 to 15 points one expects. So this is what we have to do in the examination, more points, more marks. So this is the direct proportionality. Okay, then next thing is highlighting the keywords. Highlighting the keywords, like in the paper, let's say in 10 marker we might have written 2 pages. In 15 markers we have written 3 pages, but in those pages the evaluator will not spend too much time. So for each answer he may spend 1 or 1.5 minutes. So in those many seconds you have to show him what are all the plums in the cake, like you have to highlight them. At least these 8 to 10 points or 12 to 15 points should be highlighted properly, highlighted, and they have to be shown properly to the evaluator. And this matters a lot because it will ease the process of the examiner or the evaluator, and he will feel happy when he finishes off one question in 1 or 1.5 minutes. He will feel happy because you are reducing his burden by giving him the highlights. So that is what matters. But again, here it is advised to go with one pen rather than using multiple pens. 1 or 2 pens is fine, but again it is subjected to how you manage the time. Then decent language. Here a very basic question that we face while we are guiding the students in answer writing. Sir, how does the language matter? We don't want the flamboyant language, like very hi-fi language. We don't want here. Decent language. And they expect the answer to be of degree level. A degree level student, how his English or how his language skills will be. So like that they want you to present. And with respect to the vocabulary, vocabulary has to be recent. It should not be very sober also, and it should not be very flamboyant also. Very decent language, but with a correct grammar. The very important things that we see these days, like people don't know the difference between lose and lose. So basically it is lose, lost. Loosed, this is not held tightly, that is loose. Most of the people write this for this. So we have many things like that in the answer writing. So basically your grammar has to be right. Then the good handwriting. Yes, it matters a lot in the examination. Yes, the presentation matters, then your knowledge matters, but to have like extra mile or to have extra marks, you have to have a very good handwriting. Very good handwriting in the sense, the legible handwriting. Legible. The examiner should not use any kind of other tools to look into your handwriting. He should not use any kind of tool. So basically it should be neat, and throughout the paper you have to maintain the neatness. There should not be any stray marks. So by having a good handwriting, what we have seen over the years is like you will get 5% extra marks, and these 5% extra marks are going to decide your future. For example, if your handwriting is bad and your knowledge is very good, you may not end up in the final list. But with good knowledge and good handwriting, definitely you are going to see your name in the final list, because if you take this cutoff marks as 825, let's say, 5% of this 825, it is around 40 marks extra. 40 marks, it is going to decide your future. It is going to decide your service. Maybe like with like bad handwriting, you might have entered the list at rank, let's say 700 or 800. But with these marks, you are going to get single digit or double digit rank, that is between 1 to 99 rank you are going to get with a decent handwriting. And please mind this one, this has 5% weightage for sure. Knowingly or unknowingly, the evaluator will be impressed by your handwriting and the neatness. So we'll have a short break here and we'll continue after 2 minutes. Welcome back. So we were seeing the difference between the prelims and the mains and what we should not do in the examination, like we have to shed our university practice. And the third thing we have seen, like what all does it need in the answer paper. So that is what we have seen, and we'll go to the next aspect of it. What does it demand? It is done. And finally, the eye-catching presentation. Eye-catching, mainly it is to do with how you manage those two sheets or 2 pages or 3 pages. So basically, that is what matters. So basically, the evaluator should find like very, a very good impression or a very pleasing impression, because finally it is the mood of the evaluator that is going to decide your marks. So to maintain his good mood, you have to try all the things. So basically you should never try to disappoint him with the expectation. So maybe with your knowledge, maybe with your presentation, you have to be like very pleasing to him or her. Okay, next aspect, maintaining the neatness that I have told. Maintaining the neatness, there should not be any stray mark over the paper, and there should not be like any scratches or any overwriting on the paper. If at all you want to overwrite something, just put a slash on it. Just put a horizontal line on it. Don't do rubbing upon it. So that is what is required. And the very next aspect is the difference between the optional and GS paper. Difference between optional and GS paper. Basically, optional papers are 2 and GS papers are 5. And in optional paper, what they expect from you? So basically, the difference between GS paper and the optional paper is the generalist versus specialist approach. So generalist is in GS, that is generalist approach. They don't want you to be like a very specialist. For example, even in science and technology questions, if they ask you, they don't want you to be like an engineer. So they just want a general understanding of that particular topic. And if they have gone into some of the social questions or societal questions, so there they don't expect you to be like social entrepreneur or the person who has authored many books. So they don't want you to write like that. So this GS paper is a generalist paper. And when it comes to the optional paper, it is a specialist paper. Specialist, you have selected a particular optional paper. Maybe it is a literature paper, maybe it is an engineering paper. So in literature paper, you should not sound like a student who has come from the technical background. So in literature, you should not write more answers in the point format, because they want you to write in a literary way. Literary way in the sense that like they want to write you how an author writes. But when it comes to the engineering papers, maybe mechanical engineering or civil engineering paper, there they want you like to write in a engineer's way. That is more kind of calculation, more kind of facts, or more kind of diagrams. That is how they want. So there is a difference between optional and GS paper. And when it comes to the factual knowledge and analysis, in GS paper, you want facts, more facts, and less analysis, or we can say a crisp analysis or less analysis. When it comes to optional paper, the proportionality of analysis will increase. Analysis, it has to be more. Somewhere it is 50 to 60% of the answer should be analysis. And when it comes to the factual details, we have to reduce. Maybe 20 to 30% factual details that we need in the optional paper. And when it comes to essay, your analysis will increase to 70 to 80%. This is analysis. And when it comes to the factual knowledge, it is around 20 to 30%. So this is the general differentiation between these three papers. And when it comes to the essay writing, maybe it is brainstorming or structuring an essay, we will have separate session, and they are scheduled in the next week. So we will take up the essay writing session for 2 different hours. So that part is covered. And optional, yes, it depends upon your optional. And since these are mainly the GS related classes, so in optional, like you have to approach a particular guide or particular mentor about their particular answer writing, because we cannot put a blanket approach for writing the answers of literature or writing the answers of engineering or writing the answers of the humanities papers. So they differ in their own arena. Then the next thing is about the choice. So choice I have told, that is in optionals you will be having the choice of questions. For example, there will be in optional, there will be 8 main questions, among which you have to write 5 main questions, and there will be some restrictions. The first question and the 5th question you have to select for sure, and in these 2, 3, 4, and in this 6, 7, 8, you have to choose at least one, and among the left ones you have to choose one. So basically 1st and 5th are compulsory, and among these one is compulsory, among these one is compulsory, and in the rest 4 you have to write one. So totally 5 answers you will be writing, and in those 5 questions there will be sub questions also. So basically in mains paper of optional, so you will be getting 19 to 22 questions totally. So they may vary from 10 marker to 15 marker or 20 marker. So this depends upon a particular optional. Choices I told about. Then the types of questions we get in the examination. Types of question you might have seen, like every question start with generally with how, what, why, so like this. In examination you might have seen, if you go to the old question papers, you might have seen the beginning words or the ending words of that question as explain, then describe, then elucidate, then critically analyze, then evaluate, then opine or comment. So you will get some more also, but the general questions are these, and for these you have to have lot of practice. You have to have. For example, explain. Explain is, this is like a whatever the fact they have there, and you are writing those facts and you are trying to explain them. So it is kind of a textbookish kind of thing. So textbook kind of thing approach you are doing. When it comes to describe, so it is just like explanation only, but in description you may illustrate few things. Illustrate, and you can go for more analysis here. More analysis while you are describing. Elucidate, not much this thing, but when it comes to elucidate, again it is kind of explanation only. Explanation, but we have a little scope for our comment also. Little scope for our comment too. Then when it comes to critically analyze, you can write very positives about them, then negatives about them, or when it comes to criticality of it, few people get confused here, whether we have to write against the government, write in the favor of the government. If you write more in the favor of the government, maybe you will get more marks. There is nothing like that. It is up to your cognitive ability or up to your evaluation, like how you are trying to pursue that particular thing. So even if you write all the negative points and end up the answer, that is also not a problem. Don't try to balance in such this thing. If you are very positive about it, write more in positive, maybe 20% in negative. You are more negative about it, then write 80% negative and 20% positive. Then when it comes to evaluate, so basically here you have to give more facts. It is just like what all that has been done in that particular, usually scheme related, program related questions will have the evaluate thing as a question. So evaluate, here more facts and more reports and more numbers or index. So this you have to present. And when it comes to opine and comment, again you are free and independent to write in your own way. Like opine and comment, maybe it is very constructive, or maybe you are trying to revamp the whole thing. That is all fine, but as far as possible try to be optimistic and try to be more solution oriented in that particular thing, rather than just raising the question, rather than just doing a speech like flamboyant speech like thing. You have to give the constructive criticism, or you have to give a solution oriented answer. The next thing is the time management. Time management, it is very critical. It is very critical when it comes to the mains paper, because 3 hours and you have to write 250 marks. So there every minute matters, and you don't have time to relax also. And there are many methods how you have to go about the paper that we will be telling throughout the year, like which questions you have to take first, which questions you have to keep at the end, that we will tell. But managing those 3 hours is a difficult task, and that too for 7 papers in trot, like continuously 7 papers, those 250 marks. So that is bit difficult. So what all are the nuances of those things? So 250 marks will be each paper, 250 marks, and 180 minutes will be given. So basically for each marks it is less than 1 minute, or to be very precise, it is around 40 to 45 seconds for each marks. So you have to maintain that much time. So you cannot have like how many words you will write in 1 minute or something, but generally you should have a idea. Totally there will be 3000 to 4000 words that you have to write. For 30 to 40 pages you have to write in 3 hours. This is the general approach, or what we have seen over the years. The people will tend to write 3000 to 4000 words a paper or in 3 hours, and this is the maximum possibility. And people will be having limitations. Maybe like the slow writer will end up in 3000 words, but he or she will write more crisp answers, and there will be few people whose writing speed will be 4000 words in 3 hours. Maybe they will explain more, but again it is about your presentation what matters, not the number of the words, and your crisp approach, that is what matters. So in a page, in a UPSC paper, so if you take one paper like this, so here the margin will be there, and here left margin and right margin will be there. You have to write in this only. So basically you have to write in this stipulated space, and usually this accommodates 80 to 120 words. 80 to 120 words if you take average. So per page you will be having 100 words, and you have to write 30 to 40 pages. For 10 marker question, they will be giving you 2 pages, and for 15 marker they will be giving you 3 pages. So you have to space accordingly, or manage the space and time eventually and write. Then 5 to 6 words in a line, that is what we tend to write, because you don't have time to calculate your words in the examination. So basically 5 to 6 words you will get in the in one line. So nearly 15 to 20 lines you will tend to write. So that is how you get the hang of the number of words that you are accommodating. And as I told, there is no much time to underline or use the sketch pens or the color pens in the examination, because the time is very precious there. Maybe with 1 or 2 pens you can manage, but our humble request will be like use 1 pen with neatness, and try to use that pen only for the block diagram or the flow chart, or even for the map, try to use the same pen. If your writing speed is very good, then you can go ahead for the other pens too. And when it comes to the 10 markers, so 10 markers are asked for 150 words. We have to write in 150 words, and 2 pages will be given. But if you take the time, like if you divide 180 marks in 3 hours, 250 marks in 180 minutes, then usually for 10 marker you will be having 7.2 minutes. 7.2 minutes, roughly it is 7 minutes. But before you go for any answer, you have to brainstorm. You should not jump onto the question and start writing. After you read the question, you have to analyze the question, and you have to get the points. You have to note down the points somewhere in your question paper, like this. Maybe for 10 marker, suddenly in half a minute, you are trying to brainstorm few points. Then only you are starting writing. Even while in 15 marker questions, 15 marker, there will be 250 words space, 3 pages, and if you take the right time, it is 10.8 minutes. But for our benefit, let us restrict it to 10 minutes. But before you go for the answer writing, you have to do the brainstorming around 12 to 15 points in 1 minute and start writing the answer. So basically for 15 marker questions, there has to be a 1 minute brainstorming, and for 10 marker, there has to be half a minute brainstorming. It will help a lot if you practice this way. And the next thing is about how do we make difference, that is at Manifest IAS, like what all the things that we adopt here so that you will write a very good answer over the years. On today, like if you start writing, definitely I know you'll be writing one of the worst answers, but in the 9 months or like 10 months transformation, you'll be writing very good answers, because we have seen those results. Like the person with very sober answer writing, with even very bad handwriting, very bad presentation skills, after the rigorous practice of 9 months or 10 months, they have started writing very good answers, and some of them have cleared with very good ranks also. So that is what we have seen over the years. And at Manifest IAS, what all the things that we have at our disposal, like how do we make you to practice? So we have sprint tests. Sprint tests, you must be knowing sprint means like short distance in a very short time. So that is what is sprint. So sprint tests every day. Before the class or after the class, we will be giving you two questions of 5 marks each. Though in the examination 10 marker and 15 marker comes, we give you very short answers of 5 marks, because in the beginning you have to write 5 marker, then you have to go for 10 and 15 markers later. So sprint test, and with time stipulation, we'll be giving you this test every day. Then chunk wise test after 3-4 weeks, or sometimes if the syllabus is more, after 2 weeks only, we are giving you one mains test. One mains test. Initially, we don't conduct 250 marks test, because you will be frightened to sit for 3 hours and write 250 marks. Chunk wise test will be giving. So basically for 125 marks in the beginning, and later after 2-3 months, we will be giving you full paper for 250 marks. Then we will be having revision test. This is after 10 to 12 weeks, we will be giving one revision test, so that you can consolidate all your notes for those months, and you revise that for another time and write the test. And these revision tests, usually we conduct it for 250 marks. Then after every test, maybe it is sprint test, chunk wise test, or revision test, we'll be discussing those answers in the class soon after your examination. Maybe after 15 to 20 minutes break, we'll be discussing those answers, because you will be making some mistakes while writing, or you'll be having some lacuna in your answer writing, but in the test discussion stage, you will be correcting your factual knowledge also, and even your presentation, and you will be getting few extra points with respect to those questions. And when it comes to evaluation, we have a very good evaluation process. Usually it is a 3-round process that we adopt. One is checked by generalists, then second round is by faculty, and third one is one-on-one discussion what we do. And feedback we will be giving against each answer, and at the end of the paper also we will be giving very general remarks, and we have our own evaluation pattern also. If you look at our one of the tests, you will definitely get those points. And feedback, we will be giving you feedback, written feedback there only, and we will be giving you enough time to discuss with the faculty. That is one-on-one interaction you can do in this COVID time, maybe through the phone call or the video call. Like you will be having this one interaction, you will be having your paper in front of you, even we will be having your paper in front of us, and we'll be telling you what all mistakes we have done in that, and how to improve your answers for the next test. And structure of the answer. For example, we have taken one question here. And please read this question until we get this board cleaned. We'll take 2 minutes break. Please read this question. Hello. Welcome back. We'll see this structure of the answer. So here we have given one question. Vulnerability is an essential element for defining disaster impacts and its threat to people. So first line, vulnerability is an essential element for defining disaster impacts and its threat. So first of all, you have to understand what is vulnerability. If you write somewhere about vulnerability in the answer or the meaning of the vulnerability in the answer, so that will fetch definitely good marks. Then how and in what ways can vulnerability to disasters be characterized? Discuss different types of vulnerability with reference to disaster. So while telling the nuances of the answer, like structure, like I'll go on explaining you what all you have to write. So generally in the examination, what will happen as soon as the person sees this vulnerability or this keyword, the first thing that a person does in the first paragraph is he or she will write the definition of vulnerability. But in this examination, it is different from university paper. Here, first we have to write the context, because all the questions in the GS paper, so maybe in the GS 1, 2, 3, all the 20 questions will be somewhere connected to the current affairs, because they are asking only around 20 questions each paper, that is 60 questions. For the whole year, they are asking 60 questions in general studies paper. And they will not ask some old or like static things. Like they will not ask you like what is constitution, what all are the ingredients of the constitution, or what is preamble, define preamble. They will not ask such questions. Though it is ingredient of the answer, they will ask something which is related to the current affairs or which is related to the present day. So first we have to think why this question has been asked. Vulnerability during disaster. So it is with respect to disaster. In your answer, you begin with this context. Context, that is why this question has been asked, because of the recent disasters that we are seeing. Recent disasters, maybe it is with respect to landslides. Maybe it is with respect to landslides. Maybe it is with respect to famine conditions. Maybe it is due to drought. Maybe it is due to earthquake. So many things. So due to the natural disaster in the recent times, if you quote one recent natural disaster, for example, like the landslides in Karnataka and Kerala. Landslide in Karnataka and Kerala, there the evaluator will think that you have not just studied the textbooks, you have also read the newspaper, or you are aware of the current affairs. So in that way, he will be very much impressed. So always begin with the context. But most of the people don't begin with this. Over the years, we have seen the persons who write context for each question, they have got very good marks. So context writing is very essential in answer writing. Then you come to the introduction. You tell like disaster. What is disaster? Or like how many types of disasters are there in short, and recent disasters what we have seen, and then you define the vulnerability. Vulnerability, it is a state of a person or entity where it can be easily hurt, which can easily be hurt, maybe physically, maybe emotionally, or in other aspects. So you define vulnerability for 1 or 2 lines. So that makes introduction along with what all are the disasters that we see. Then body of the this one, like body, it is very important. Here we are marking the parts and the subparts. Parts and the subparts. In parts, we have to identify which all are the parts. First, context introduction is done. But in body, how many parts we have to write? How and in what ways can vulnerability to disaster be characterized? So basically, we have to write the characteristics of these disasters. Characteristics and how you are going to characterize. So first, we will tell about the loss. So characteristic is the main heading. In that, I am writing loss. So what all kind of loss we have? So while we are making any kind of chart, so definitely we will look at the lives. In lives, we will see human beings, humans, and we are going to see the livestock. We are going to see the livestock. One is humans, then comes the livestock. Then when it comes to the livelihood options, so first characteristic is the main part, then comes the loss part, then in this the humans, then the livestock, then property, especially the buildings, infrastructures. So these are the things that we are going to get as a this one. Then other things like after loss, the marginalization, that is like few well-off people will be pushed to poverty. So basically when it comes to marginalization, maybe it is with respect to their income sources are not there, and when it comes to food, they are not getting food, and their shelter. So like this, I have created in this particular answer one part and the other subparts. And what they have asked, how and in what ways. So basically while you explain these things, there will be around 100 words for sure. And first this context, introduction, they will occupy around 50 words, then these around 100 words. Then finally you have to conclude. So discuss different types of vulnerability with respect to disasters. Already we have covered all those things. You cannot take like very categorically like different types of vulnerability, because we have already covered with their characteristics. So basically we have to wind up. The characterization of the loss or the vulnerability has to be mapped properly, and they have to be reached with all the resources. And in the future, like to avoid any kind of discrepancies, we have to have a preparedness with respect to this characterization. This is how we have to wind up the answer. So parts and subparts are over. Then the next thing is illustrations. Illustrations, maybe you can draw the map. Let's say India, here it was affected much. And when it comes to the flood situation, maybe here, this is flood, this is the landslides. When you take the upper part mainly this area for landslides, and for famines, maybe this area. Like that you can do, or illustration can be flow chart or maybe block diagram. So whatever I have written here, maybe you can do a characteristics like loss of this, loss of that. So like this also you can do. Illustration, it is kind of a diagram. Maybe it is a map, maybe it is a flow chart, maybe it is a block diagram, maybe it is a table, whatever that is possible, you can put in the answer. And invariably, you have to have one illustration in each answer. So that is up to your discretion what kind of illustration you will put. Then solution. So finally in the last line I have told like what all are the solutions, like the assessment, proper assessment, and providing the resources to the vulnerable sections and moving them away from their habitats, that is vulnerable habitats. So that is the solution. And finally conclusion. This is about the preparedness, like how we can be preparing ourselves to the forthcoming disasters. So that becomes the conclusion. This way you have to structure your answer. So for first 30 seconds you have to note down these points, you have to brainstorm these points and try to structure them. Then only after 30 seconds you start writing about the answer. Then this is about the answer writing, briefly about one question. Then practice for next few days. What all you have to do? You should not go for more answer writing right now. Just go for NCERT questions. Most of you might have finished the NCERTs. You must be reading NCERTs. Go to the NCERTs, go to the back of each chapter and find some questions and start writing. Right now don't write for 10 marks or 15 marks. Only for 5 marks you can write, and you can send it across to us. Maybe a particular faculty you can send it. You can take our numbers or you can book appointment. You can send and get them evaluated in the beginning stages. And the second thing I want you to do is go to the previous year question papers, UPSC question papers. They are there in the website upsc.gov.in. In the examination section, you go for the previous question papers. There you look at the question. Don't start writing the answers right now. Look at the question, what all they have asked, how questions are being asked, whether you have at least some knowledge about that or not, or it is belonging to which category. You just have a look of those things. The first look of those questions you have. Nothing more you have to do. When we begin the classes in our foundation course, the sprint test, chunk-wise test and the revision test will be covering for sure, and you will get a hang of those answers, and over the next few months you will be writing very good answers so that you clear this exam with lot of margin, with more marks in mains, and that is our wish and that is our process also. Till then, look at these questions, previous year question papers also, and in case of anything, do approach us for any clarification. So until then, prepare well and wait for the next class. After few minutes at the scheduled time, your next class begins. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, Apaji Naik, thank you very much for posing that question. You have asked for the rough work. As I had told, the paper will be like this. Paper will be like this, and there will be upper margin and left side margin and the right side margin. We are not supposed to write anything here in this thing. We should not write anything here. Also we cannot write anything, only here we can write. But at the end of the booklet of the answer paper, there will be 4 to 8 papers which are kept for rough work. But again, I would suggest, if you go and do the brainstorming there, and if you want to replicate those things here, it will definitely waste some time. Better than going to the rough sheet, what I would suggest is, in the question paper itself, in the question paper, there will be a margin here, and here the questions will be printed. Shortly you have to make some of the points here or here, short points. It is a good practice, and definitely in all those 20 questions you will not be doing a very good brainstorming. Maybe in 10 or 12 questions you will need it, but you do the brainstorming in the question paper. Nobody will object you if you write anything in the question paper. Absolutely, it is fine. But if you go to the rough sheet at the end of the booklet, you will simply waste the time. Okay, any more questions we have? Okay, thank you very much. Wait for the next session.